the problem was that we were trying to be everything for everyone. It's a classic rookie mistake of entrepreneurship. You have to be okay with like hearing no. You have to be okay with rejections. I think initially when I started, it was.
Do you remember Jarvis from Iron Man? Well, today's guest, along with his college mates, decided to build one, except it's Jarvis for enterprises. He is Adit Jain, co-founder and CEO of Leena AI, a conversational AI assistant for enterprises that helps employees resolve matters of HR and IT support with just 2 words. Hey Leena! Adit, welcome to MobileAppDaily interview series. Super excited to have you with us. Can you briefly talk about the origin story for Leena AI and your own personal journey as one of the co-founders?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here, Meenal. And a quick introduction. So, completed my undergrad in 2015, and at that time we had like the Swiggies and the Zomatos of the world, which were actually changing lives, and how you eat food and access stuff. And there was this movement of entrepreneurship that started, and we just got pulled into it, me and 2 of my best friends from college. And that's essentially where all of this started. We essentially started with uh, building a platform called Chatteron. So Chatteron is a horizontal platform that enables anyone to create chatbots without writing a single line of code. So it was a DIY platform to build chatbots for use cases like customer support, marketing, sales, etc., for websites, Facebook Messenger pages, and Twitter handles. That was where we started off. The first 2 years were amazing. So from 2015 to 2017, we went from zero to over 30,000 businesses who were, just creating bots for different use cases. And while all of this was happening and the growth was great, it was a freemium model. So while the top of the funnel had expanded to over 30,000 businesses globally using Chatteron to build, chatbots for different use cases, our conversions were pretty bad. We had only around 20 odd paying customers. And when we dug a little deeper, Meenal, what we realized is uh, the problem was that we were trying to be everything for everyone. It's a classic rookie mistake of entrepreneurship, and we were not like actually going deep and adding a lot of value to one particular persona. We were trying to be everything for everyone, and we essentially were nothing for nobody, right? Um, and that's essentially why we weren't converting well. So, meanwhile, when we went and looked at the customers that had converted from the top of the funnel, the 20 customers that actually had started paying us, we realized that uh, they were using Chatteron to build internal HR and IT bots. Now, this was very interesting for us because at that time, IIT does not teach you how to what HR and IT really does, right? it's
Yeah.
it's probably useless information that we get most days, but uh, in practical life it uses. I'm sure it is very useful, yeah, for theoretical information, but practical information is very low. So uh, after that we started looking at what is why are they doing this, like why are they essentially building HR and ID bots, and that's where we realized that there is this uh, problem of access to information, right? So in large enterprises there's so many teams, people, applications, systems, departments, that finding the right information to get your job done is just impossible. And that's where we realized that we have to solve, like we can actually solve the problem of access to information in large enterprises. And that's essentially the birth of Leena AI, with the vision of building a Siri for the enterprise.
So back in 2021, the company raised about $13 million in Series B funding round led by Bessemer Venture Partners and existing investor Greycroft. What was your biggest challenge in raising capital for the first time?
I think the biggest issue is that for first time entrepreneurs who are just out of college or have no experience, it is just very very hard to know where to start, right? And I think that was one of the biggest. That's one of the biggest thing that I feel like you spend a lot of the first 3 months, 6 months trying to figure out, okay, what to do, etc. Like what do investors care about, how do you think about raising, etc. So I specifically believe that problem seems to be lesser in today's world. That now I'm on the other side of the table and I receive these pitches. I do think that even in people who are still in college, right, second year, third year, they're actually able to concisely communicate and get all of these things together very very fast as compared to what we used to back in, like, not back in the it's still 7 years ago. And I think that was one thing that has significantly changed, but it was very tough for us back then.
So, based on your experience, what would be your word of advice for startups that have no prior experience in raising funding?
I think one thing that always is the of prime importance is uh, that you have to know that most of the time, still, like Series B, people are investing in you. So you need to come out as clear as possible, as authentic as possible, and as trustworthy as possible. Because at the end of the day, any VCs, even at a Series B level, any VC's biggest bet is going to be you, and probably not the business, right? So it's important to understand that. It's important to be able to communicate and articulate in such a manner that it depicts that trust uh, that they can have on you.
And as your profile states, you are an angel investor yourself. So, having received tons of successful as well as unsuccessful pitches, what differentiates the two for you?
So I think, the most important thing is to, like, for when I invest, right, what I'm looking for early stage opportunities is the team in the space majorly, right? I think the idea, the product, etc., is so fluid at that time that you spend time in the market, you learn, and then you pivot, right? So I think if you have the right team, which is the, like, who wants to actually solve something in a specific space, I think that's what most angel investors are betting on, and that's where all pre-seed and angel rounds are happening. So, I if I'm an entrepreneur and if I have to do fundraising again, or remove all of my experience and go back and do it again, I just specifically focus on uh, you know just making sure that I sell myself to the angel investors properly. And I research the space. I know about the space. I tell them very articulated, very very clearly on why am I excited about that space, right? I think those are the two most important things that an entrepreneur has to do. I think angel investors know that you know you're gonna pivot, things are gonna go wrong, most of the things are gonna go wrong, and you're gonna keep pivoting until you figure them out or you fix them out, right? So I think those are the two most important things. And I spend a lot of time. What I see, entrepreneurs not doing badly, they would have some great work that they have done before, and they'd not even mention it anywhere, right? And I think the biggest product that you're selling in an angel investor pitch is yourself. So you have to do that properly.
When it comes to conversational AI, the biggest hearsay or the concerns that masses have is that it's the companies get a free pass on the data that they collect and how they use it, and then where do you draw the line between user privacy and user benefit, based on the data that you're giving on to these companies. So could you walk me through where is the data privacy regulations at in India, for instance, when it comes to conversational AI?
Absolutely. I think the globally, not just in India, but globally, the data security and privacy regulations are in line with what they are for any software. There are no different regulations right now, and I think that's fair because we can probably extend it to the conversational AI context later on. But from a Leena AI perspective, let's say an employee comes in and says, "Okay, why is my salary less this month?" Right? Now, for Leena to respond to that, Leena needs to know who you are. Like, it's Meenal, this employee ID and this email ID and all of that, and then would need access to your salary slip, your attendance data, or your leave data, etc., to be able to answer that. Hey, Meenal, no, you took 3 unpaid leave. That's why your salary less, right? Now, to be able to now the information that Leena AI is accessing was already available in an enterprise system. It is not getting generated, or Leena is not asking it from the employee. So technically, most of the times Lena is just accessing information that is already existing in an enterprise, right? So it is subject to the same level of data security and privacy regulation that any enterprise software should be, right? Just extending this beyond Lena AI to other use cases like customer support. So let's say you call Airtel or Vodafone or AT&T, whoever, and you say, hey, why is my bill less? I did not make this international roaming call for whatever, right? So even in that case, let's say they have an intelligent voice bot that says, no, you actually have made this call to Dubai, that is costing you $40, for example, right? So those questions, like those answers, will again come from data that already exists in the enterprise system. So they should be subject to the standard data privacy and protection regulation as well. So uh, I think that's what all of the conversational AI companies are doing today. The main ones for us as well are GDPR, ISO 27K, SOC 2, CCPA, FedRAMP. These are the big ones that we have too, and it just makes sense as well.
All right, because also like you, because in the previous examples you've particularly talked about HR, and from what I learned that Lena AI, the in terms of company functions that it facilitates, it also dwells into finance, administration, and I was wondering in terms of different what all sectors do you? I wanted to get a better idea of like all the company functions that Lena AI taps into, and among all those company functions, really connecting this to the data security question, what's the most sensitive sector when you're working with companies where you have to watch out for?
Absolutely, great question, Meenal. So we are an enterprise virtual assistant. So we cover everything from IT, HR, admin, finance, procurement, sales, literally everything, right? So we position ourselves as the Siri for the enterprise or Jarvis for the enterprise. So it's like everything that you do as an employee on a day-to-day basis, Lena is going to help you. Now, the most sensitive data, and the reason I was giving you the salary example, is generally the employee information itself, because Lena does not touch customer information at all. So our customer information we don't touch generally. Generally, we sometimes do. There are use cases like the sales use cases or the operations use cases, where let's say a salesperson wants to, or let's say Coca-Cola is a customer of Lena. So Coca-Cola sales employee says, okay, how much of Coca-Cola does this distributor buy? And then they get a response. They get a real time response to that. So in those cases we do, but generally the most sensitive data that we have is of employees itself, uh, and it's covered. Even all kinds of data, be it financial information, etc., is covered under the 4 5 things that I mentioned, that we do to have data privacy and protection in place.
In terms of Indian demographics, we have like this wide variety of linguistics all around us, and clearly, already with the in terms of enunciation, like language enunciation and accents and all of that. So, how much of linguistics and accents play a part in accuracy when it comes to conversational AI?
Absolutely, great question. So it does mean it'll play a big role, because I think there are languages globally which are which have where resources are not that highly available, right? So there are languages which are very less spoken or which are very very complicated, and overall resources are not that highly available. So in those cases, the accuracy wildly varies when you compare it with something like an English, Spanish, French, German, which are very very widely spoken, Hindi, widely spoken and accepted languages globally. So it does vary. It depends on how widely used a language is generally. But I've also got to say that there are now a list of around 40 50 languages globally that are very well supported uh, in NLP and in AI.
So with linear AI, you haven't ever had that issue, so to say, right?
So we support all major global languages and all major Indian languages as well.
So, what are some of the core values that make up your company culture? And how has that evolved over time?
Absolutely, makes sense. So, as an organization, Meenal, our company culture has, three strong pillars. The first pillar is, just maintaining your curiosity, right? So, we want to work with people, and we want to be very, very curious people who try and solve problems through and through, right? So, we fundamentally rely on a very high speed of innovation, and I think curiosity is good. It's a cultural, it's literally a cultural value for us, because at the end of the day, that's how we have been able to succeed, and that's how we have been able to transformationally change the industry, because we are just very curious. We don't take no for an answer. We keep marching forward, whatever the case might be. And that's the first one. The second one is more around the lines of being extremely open to accepting criticism. So one of the things that we champion within the organization is, do not ever take criticism as negative. Everything has to be taken and has to be seen as a positive reinforcement or a positive criticism. How can you take it in your stride? How can you improve? I think a lot of time criticism is taken extremely negatively, and people are scared that, hey, this is happening. They get defensive. I personally embrace criticism, because hey, I it was my blind spot. I didn't get to see it. See, just think about it. If in a car crash, if somebody would have told you that there's a car coming, you'd appreciate it. You'd not be defensive about it. You'd appreciate it, and you put the brakes on, right? So that's exactly like how I look at criticism, and I think that's one of the things that we champagne in the organization as well. And then the third pillar is also very, very similar. It's also very contrary and very similar in nature. So it's basically, how can we have patience? So patience and trust, actually. So if, let's say, Meenal is, I asked Meenal, let's say she's the customer success manager, and I asked her for some information, being in sales, that, okay, what's happening with that customer? I have a cross sell opportunity going on there, right? So I won't, if, let's say, Meenal is saying, I'm going to come back to you by today evening, I'm not going to think that Meenal is not working. I'm going to think that she's busy with something, right? And that's probably why she forgot. Let me quickly remind her. So how can you always come from a place of trust? How can you always give the benefit of doubt? Like, always, we also call it always giving the benefit of doubt, right? So how can I give you a benefit of doubt for everything? And of course, if you fail, or if you take advantage of it, then the system is kind of built in a way. If 95% people are good, 5% who are not, they'll eventually get weeded out, and you'll always get better and better at it. But at the core of it, we will always trust our people. We always give them the benefit of doubt, and it's kind of served us well overall. I think these are three specific pillars for us as an organization. The curiosity ones makes sure that we keep marching forward at a very high pace, and the other two are more about how do we behave, who we are, how do we act, all of that.
No, certainly. I think that's a great mantra for avoiding any corporate toxicity.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
coming to the second part of your question, you asked how it has evolved and changed with our interactions with our customers. I think over the last, like, we've gone from three people to 450 in the last 4 years, right? So it's been an incredible journey. But of course, every stage requires us to rethink, go back to basics, and understand what our core values and how do we want the culture to be, right? Now, of course, the basics don't change, right? So the basic three things I told you, they don't change. But how do you implement it in day-to-day life? How does it look like on the ground? Might change as the organization grows, or not. There might be things that become, valuable or invaluable over a period of time, right? So just keeping check on that. Now, what happens is, because we work very closely with leadership across organizations and across all of the globe, we get very good insights, and we get a lot of feedback. I myself speak to a lot of CIOs, CHROs, CEOs, COOs to understand how they think about topics and issues, and how they think about culture in their own organizations to craft our own as we keep moving forward. But I think the the culture of an organization is also like a living organism, and it keeps evolving over a period of time as the needs of the market, the company, and the organization change.
As of in your professional trajectory, have there been certain people, because this is a very interesting and yet very nascent field, where, and you've mentioned in the previously in our conversation, how when you entered it, it was really really new. So I'm wondering if there have been people who've served as a source of inspiration or perhaps mentors in your journey so far in this sector.
Absolutely. So, Meenal, I think there have been a lot of people, I and the other founders have relied on for sane advice as we have gone through multiple stages of our own organization. I feel I also again think of it as a living, breathing thing, because what you need, or what you need to learn, or what you need to think about sometimes cannot happen from just one kind of person. So the people you rely on also evolves over a period of time. Right now, of course, we have a proper formal board and all of that, but apart from that, as a person also, I rely on people who have been there and done it before. Now the problem is it's a dichotomy, because when you are doing it for the first time, nobody in the world, right? So how do you find? So it's basically, you keep talking to people, you figure out who can help you get to the next step, and then the next step. Of course, everybody's advice is important to get you to that next step. And then after, once you think you have someone whose advice is sane across multiple levels, and that's great, you stick with them throughout. But generally, on a practical level, it becomes very tough for first time entrepreneurs, specifically when they have no networks. They just so I think at that time you should just find people who've just done, even who are just one step above you. I think that's because no, I don't think like you can find like really really senior folks to come and mentor you on day one, right? So just go to the next step, figure out someone who can help you at least get there, and then keep doing this until you find the person who can actually give you advice throughout stages. So yeah, I think there have been a lot of people we have relied on to get where we are.
Not just entrepreneurs, but anybody who's in in any sector that's trying to approach networking without really having any context of it, or having perhaps any sort of experience into how to pursue networking, right, in their particular sector. What advice would you give to people as to how to approach networking in your particular field?
I think I think number one is you have to be okay with this, like hearing no. You have to be okay with rejections. I think initially when I started, there was, what are they gonna say? What if they say no? So there's a lot of hesitation on that part. You're scared. Uh, I think you have to just do it for the first 10, 15 times. Hear no 15 times, and then you'll be okay. So my advice has always been to get to the first 15 no's as soon as possible. So that's to anybody, like not just to entrepreneurs, but even to salespeople. Get to the first 15 no's as soon as possible, so that you'll be fine, and you'll be fine after that. So I think that's one, and the second is I think always come at it from a point of view. Okay, what can I do for them for free? I know it'll be great to know Meenal, but why should she know me, or what can I do for her to make her life better, so that tomorrow maybe if if I need her for something, she'd want to spend some time with me. uh, but of course, like if, you can't just be thinking, okay, what do I give her right now, and what do I take from her today itself, right? You just give, and you hope that someday it'll all come together. That's the idea.
Having a long term view perhaps of your
Yep.
potential collaboration, both professionally, like personally, and I would say for Leena AI. Are there certain goals that you have in mind for perhaps this year, as well as maybe a 5-year plan that you have in mind when it comes to Leena AI?
Absolutely, Meenal. So, Lena, we want to deliver a strong 3x growth this year as well. So we have been able to do that for the last couple of years, and we want to do it this year as well. Even when the overall global, because we are a global company, we have customers in the US. Actually, a lot of most of our customers are US, Middle East, Europe, and South America. So we are a global company by that sorts, and even while the globe is suffering through or is at the verge of a global meltdown, I think we are uniquely placed for a good growth because we are a cost saving kind of a solution for organizations, and we are determined to do a 3x growth this year as well, and that's our biggest goal for 2023.
All right, and that sounds like a feasible plan, I suppose. And you're right. I mean, with conversational AI, it is one of the more padded industries, I would say, from the economic upheaval right now. Yeah, and I think with that, I've covered hopefully pretty much I had for you. Um,
Perfect. Thank you so much.
yeah. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me and taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.